The sound of my pen scratching against paper filled the otherwise silent room as I made final adjustments to the blueprint spread before me. I had been at it for hours, perfecting every line, every angle. The clock on my desk showed 2:37 a.m., but time held little meaning when I was absorbed in my work. I am Felix Marlowe, a successful architect in my 40s. At least, that is what people say. Success is relative, I suppose. I built a career on precision and control, traits that have served me well in crafting structures that stand the test of time. If only relationships were as easy to blueprint and construct. A soft creak from the hallway caught my attention. Mila, my 11-year-old daughter, appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Daddy, why are you still up?" I set down my pen and gestured for her to come closer. "Just finishing up some work, sweetheart." "What are you doing out of bed?" She climbed onto my lap, her warmth a stark contrast to the cold emptiness I had been feeling. "I had a bad dream. Can I stay with you for a bit?" I nodded. Mila was the one pure thing in my life, untouched by the growing tension that threatened to tear apart the carefully constructed facade of our family. "Where's Mom?" Mila asked, her voice muffled against my chest. I glanced at the clock again. 2:41 a.m., she's at a work event. Fashion never sleeps, you know. The lie tasted bitter on my tongue. Lena, my wife of 15 years, was indeed at a work event, but the frequency of these late-night engagements had been increasing, and with them, my suspicions. Lena was a striking woman, a fashion designer whose star was rapidly ascending. At 35, she was in her prime, both personally and professionally. I had watched her career flourish over the past few years, a stark contrast to my own plateau. The resentment I felt was a constant companion, one I tried to suppress. Desperately trying to ignore my wandering thoughts as I held Mila, my mind drifted back to earlier that evening. Lena had breezed out the door in a whirlwind of perfume and stilettos, barely sparing me a glance. "Don't wait up, darling," she called over her shoulder. "Big presentation tomorrow. I'll be working late." I nodded, forcing a smile. "Good luck," I replied, the words hollow even to my own ears. Now, hours later, I found myself questioning every interaction, every missed detail, every secret phone call. The doubts that had been gnawing at the edges of my mind were growing stronger, threatening to consume me. "Daddy," Mila's voice pulled me from my thoughts. "Can we have pancakes for breakfast?" I smiled, grateful for the distraction. "Of course, sweetheart. Now let's get you back to bed." As I tucked Mila in, I heard the faint sound of a car pulling into the driveway. Lena was home. I kissed Mila's forehead and quietly closed her door before making my way downstairs. Lena stumbled through the front door, her cheeks flushed and her eyes bright. She startled when she saw me standing at the foot of the stairs. "Felix? I thought you'd be asleep by now." I shrugged, keeping my voice neutral. "Had some work to finish up. How was your event?" She waved her hand dismissively, dropping her purse on the entryway table. "Oh, you know how these things are. Lots of schmoozing, lots of champagne." I'm exhausted. I watched as she kicked off her heels, noting the slight sway in her stance. "You should get some rest. Mila wants pancakes for breakfast." Lena's eyes widened slightly. "Oh, I have an early meeting. I won't be able to join you." I nodded, unsurprised. "Of course. Good night, Lena." As I turned to head back upstairs, Lena called out, "Felix? Is everything okay?" I paused, my hand on the banister. For a moment, I considered confronting her, demanding answers to the questions that plagued me. Instead, I forced another smile. "Everything's fine. Just tired. Good night." I lay awake in bed, listening to Lena's movements in the adjacent room. In the bathroom, the sound of running water, the clink of bottles, and the rustle of fabric. Each noise felt amplified, a stark reminder of the growing distance between us. As Lena slipped into bed beside me, I kept my eyes closed, fighting sleep. She did not reach out to touch me, and I did not move to embrace her. We lay there, inches apart, yet separated by an ocean of unspoken words and mounting suspicions. The weeks following that sleepless night blurred together in a haze of suspicion and barely contained anger. I threw myself into my work, burying my unease under piles of blueprints and meetings. But even as I drafted perfect structures on paper, I could not ignore the cracks forming in the foundation of my own life. It was Mila who unknowingly provided the catalyst that turned my suspicions into a cold, hard reality. We were having dinner, Just the two of us. Lena was away on what she claimed was a business trip. Mila was chattering away about her day at school when she dropped the bomb. Oh, and Daddy, I saw Mom yesterday at the park. She was with a man I didn't know. I waved, but I don't think she saw me. The fork I was holding clattered onto my plate. What man, sweetheart? What did he look like? Mila shrugged, oblivious to the turmoil her words had unleashed. I don't know. Tall, I guess. They were laughing a lot. I forced a smile, not wanting to alarm her. I'm sure it was just a work colleague, honey. Eat your vegetables. But inside, I was seething. Lena was supposed to be 2 states away, closing a deal with a major retailer. The lie was so blatant, so careless, that it made my blood boil. Yet even as anger coursed through me, a part of me, the architect, the planner, began to formulate a strategy. That night, after Mila was asleep, I made a call to an old friend. Reed Lawson and I had gone to college together before I pursued the Verge, he into cybersecurity, me into architecture. We had not spoken in years, but I knew he owed me a favor. Reed? It's Felix. Marlo, listen. I need your help with something discreet. Reed's voice was cautious but curious. Felix, it's been a while. What's going on? I took a deep breath, steeling myself. I need you to monitor some communications for me. My wife's, to be specific. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Felix, that's a pretty serious request. Reed, please. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. Another pause, then a sigh. All right, send me what you've got. But Felix, be prepared. You might not like what you find. I thanked him and hung up, feeling a mix of relief and dread. The wheels were in motion now. There was no turning back. Over the next few weeks, I became a stranger in my own life. I watched Lena with new eyes, noting every secretive glance at her phone, every unexplained absence. She grew more distant, often missing family dinners and coming home late, reeking of expensive cologne that wasn't mine. Reed's reports started trickling in, encrypted messages, carefully worded emails, all pointing to one name, Diego Liar, a photographer. Apparently, they discussed future plans and next steps, their conversations maddeningly vague, yet unmistakably intimate. I threw myself into my work with renewed vigor, channeling my turmoil into complex designs and ambitious projects. To the outside world, I was the picture of calm efficiency, but inside, I was unraveling. One night, as I sat in my home office poring over Reed's latest report, I caught sight of my reflection in the window. The man staring back at me was a stranger, eyes sunken, jaw clenched, a permanent furrow etched between his brows. For a moment, I hardly recognized myself. Is this what I've become? I wondered, a man reduced to spying on his own wife. But then I remembered Mila's innocent words, Lena's careless lies. No, this wasn't about me anymore. This was about protecting what was mine, my daughter, my assets, my life. With newfound determination, I began to plan my next move. Lena had made her choice. The moment of truth had arrived for me to claim my own destiny. The revelation struck me with the force of a physical blow. I stared at the email from Reed, my hand trembling faintly as I scrolled through the intricate details of his latest discoveries. Diego Liar was not merely Lena's lover. He was a con artist, a charming parasite who had attached himself to my wife for her connections and her wealth. And Lena, my beautiful, ambitious Lena, had fallen for his deception completely, hook, line, and sinker. According to Reed's investigation, Diego was already involved with another woman behind Lena's back, a wealthy art dealer named Vivian Calloway. The realization that Lena had become as much a pawn in Diego's manipulative game as I had been in hers left a bitter taste in my mouth. But the true shock came when I delved deeper into our financial records. Lena had invested a substantial portion of our savings into a dubious art gallery venture with Diego, placing our financial stability and our daughter Mila's future in jeopardy. The anger that had been simmering within me for weeks finally reached its boiling point. I picked up my phone, my finger hovering over Lena's contact. How easy it would have been to confront her then, to unleash all the pain and betrayal I had been holding inside. But the architect in me, the strategist, knew better. This situation demanded a more calculated approach. Instead, I dialed Nora Kinney, the premier divorce attorney in the city. Her voice was crisp and professional when she answered. Felix Marlowe. I've been expecting your call. I blinked, taken aback. You have. She chuckled, a sound devoid of genuine warmth. Let's just say I have a knack for recognizing troubled marriages. What can I do for you, Mr. Marlowe? I drew a deep breath. I need to initiate divorce proceedings, quietly. I see, Nora replied. And I assume you wish to protect your assets? Absolutely. My wife has been less than faithful with our finances. Understood. My advice is to gather as much evidence as possible: financial mismanagement, infidelity, anything that portrays her in an unfavorable light. And Felix, she added, play the long game. Bide your time until the moment of maximum impact. I nodded, even though I knew she could not see me. I understand. Thank you, Nora, I said as I hung up the phone. A strange sense of calm washed over me. The die was cast. There was no going back. That evening, as Lena breezed in late once again, I watched her with new eyes. She was still beautiful, still the woman I had fallen in love with all those years ago. But now I saw the cracks in her facade, the slight nervousness in her smile, the way her eyes darted around the room, never quite meeting mine. How was your day, darling? She asked, her voice overly bright. I shrugged, keeping my face carefully neutral. Same as always. Yours? Oh, busy, she replied, waving her hand dismissively. I'm going to take a shower before dinner. The next morning, I woke before dawn and headed to the gym. It was time for a change, time to shed the complacent, trusting man I had been. As I pushed my body to its limits, I felt a new strength building, not just physically, but mentally. It was there, between sets of punishing squats, that I met Amara. She was a force of nature, all lean muscle and steely determination. As she corrected my form, her dark eyes seemed to see right through me. You're carrying a lot of anger, she observed bluntly. Want to talk about it? I hesitated, surprised by her directness. It's complicated. Amara nodded, understanding in her gaze. It usually is. But remember this. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. You choose how to respond to what life throws at you. Her words struck a chord, resonating with something deep inside me. As I left the gym that day, I felt a shift, subtle but significant. I was no longer just Felix Marlowe, the betrayed husband. I was becoming someone new, someone stronger. That night, as I lay in bed next to Lena, our bodies close but our hearts miles apart, I made a silent vow. I would not be broken by this betrayal. I would use it, harness it, to rebuild myself into someone better, stronger, more resilient. Let Lena have her affair, her risky investments, her web of lies. I would buy. For a long time, I dedicated myself to gathering evidence and meticulously building my case. When the perfect moment arrived, I would strike swiftly and decisively, leaving no room for doubt or second chances. As I drifted off to sleep, Amar's words echoed in my mind. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. I chose not to suffer. Instead, I would rise from the ashes of this betrayal, phoenix-like, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The morning sun filtered through the blinds, casting long shadows across our bedroom. I lay there perfectly still, listening to Lena's soft breathing beside me. Once, that sound had been a comfort. Now, it set my teeth on edge. I felt the mattress shift as Lena stirred. Felix. Her voice was groggy, laced with an uncertainty that was becoming all too familiar. Are you awake? I considered feigning sleep but decided against it. Yes, I replied, my voice carefully neutral. She rolled towards me, her hand reaching out to touch my arm. I fought the urge to flinch away. I've been thinking, she said, her fingers tracing patterns on my skin. We should take a trip, just the three of us. You, me, and Mila, like we used to. I turned to look at her, taking in the hopeful expression on her face. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. A trip? I echoed, keeping my tone even. Yes, Lena said, sitting up, her enthusiasm growing. We could go to that beach house we used to rent. Remember how much Mila loved building sandcastles? I sat up too, maintaining a careful distance between us. I don't know, Lena. Work is pretty busy right now. Her face fell, but she rallied quickly. Come on, Felix. It'll be good. Good for us. For our family. I watched as she leaned in, her intentions clear. Once, I would have met her halfway, eager for her touch. Now, I felt nothing but a cold detachment as she pressed her lips to mine. The kiss was brief, perfunctory. When Lena pulled back, The confusion in her eyes was evident. "Felix, is everything okay?" I managed a small smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Everything's fine. Just tired." I swung my legs out of bed. With my legs draped over the side of the bed, I effectively ended the conversation. "I'll think about the trip, okay?" I said as I headed to the shower. I could feel Lena's gaze boring into my back. Good, I thought. Let her wonder, let her worry. The next few weeks passed in a blur of quiet tension. True to my word, I agreed to the family trip, but I remained distant and detached throughout. Lena's attempts to rekindle our connection grew increasingly desperate, each one met with my calm indifference. One evening, as we sat on the beach watching Mila splash in the waves, Lena turned to me, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Felix, please talk to me. What's happening to us?" I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in months. She was still beautiful, still the woman I had fallen in love with all those years ago. But now I saw the cracks in her facade, the worry lines around her eyes, the slight tremor in her hands. "Nothing's happening, Lena," I replied, my voice soft but firm. "This is just who we are now." As we packed to return home, I overheard Lena on the phone, her voice low and urgent. "Diego, please, I need to see you. Things with Felix, they're not good. I don't know what to do." I smiled to myself. Let her run to Diego. Let her cling to the fantasy while she still could. The truth would hit her soon enough. The weeks following our return from the beach trip were a study in controlled chaos. I watched from a distance as Lena's carefully constructed world began to crumble, piece by piece. It started with whispers at her fashion shows, subtle glances, and hushed conversations that would stop abruptly when Lena approached. I had been busy, you see, planting seeds of doubt, spreading rumors through carefully chosen channels. Nothing too overt, nothing that could be traced back to me. Just enough to make people question, to make them wonder about the woman they thought they knew. Lena noticed, of course. How could she not? The invitations to exclusive events began to dry up. Her phone, once constantly buzzing with calls and messages, now fell silent for hours at a time. The constant buzzing of calls and messages grew eerily quiet. I watched as she checked her phone excessively, her brow furrowed in confusion and growing panic. "Felix," she said one evening, her voice trembling slightly, "have you heard anything strange about me?" I looked up from my blueprints, the picture of innocence. "Strange? What do you mean?" She wrung her hands, a nervous habit I hadn't seen in years. "I don't know. People are acting different, distant. I can't explain it." I set down my pen, giving her my full attention. "I'm sure it's nothing, Lena. You know how fickle the fashion world can be." She nodded, not looking convinced. "Maybe you're right. It's probably nothing." But it wasn't nothing, and we both knew it. The isolation grew day by day. I watched as Lena's friends began to pull away, making excuses to avoid her calls, canceling plans at the last minute. Her professional contacts became harder to reach, her projects put on hold for reasons that were never quite explained. Through it all, I maintained my facade, the supportive husband, concerned but not overly so. Inside, though, I was satisfied. The architect in me appreciated the slow, methodical dismantling of Lena's life. It was like watching a building collapse in slow motion, each support beam giving way one by one. The final blow came on a Tuesday afternoon. I was in my home office when I heard the front door slam, followed by the sound of Lena's heels clicking rapidly across the hardwood floor. She burst into the room, her face pale, her eyes wild. "Felix," she gasped, "I need to talk to you. It's important." I leaned back in my chair, gesturing for her to continue. "What's wrong, Lena?" She collapsed into the chair across from me, her usual grace abandoned. "It's Diego, the art gallery project. It's gone wrong. All the money, our money, it's gone." I raised an eyebrow, the picture of surprise. "Gone? What do you mean, gone?" Lena's words tumbled out in a rush, a confession long overdue. She told me about the affair. Regarding Diego's promises of love and fortune, she recounted the investment to me, the risk she had undertaken with our savings. Finally, she revealed Diego's betrayal, how he had vanished, taking the money and abandoning her to confront the consequences. As she spoke, I experienced a peculiar sense of detachment, as though I were watching a play, observing the drama unfold from a secure distance. When she concluded, her face streaked with tears, I merely nodded. "I see. I said, my voice calm and measured. And what do you want me to do about it, Lena? She stared at me, shock supplanting the desperation in her eyes. Felix, we've lost everything. Don't you understand? I rose slowly, circling the desk to stand before her. No, Lena. You've lost everything. Your lover, your money, your reputation. You shattered it. Now you dwell in the ruins. The color drained from her face as the full impact of my words struck her. Felix, what are you saying? Without a word, I reached into my desk drawer and retrieved a thick envelope. I handed it to her, observing as she opened it with trembling hands. Her eyes widened as she scanned the contents. Divorce papers, meticulously prepared and ready for filing. How long have you known? She whispered. Long enough, I replied, my voice devoid of emotion. Long enough to protect myself and Mila. You'll find the terms are quite clear. You receive nothing, Lena. And I am filing for full custody of our daughter. Lena's face contorted with rage and despair. You can't do this. I'll fight you, Felix. I'll tell everyone what you've done. I smiled, a cold, humorless expression. Go ahead. Tell them. Tell them how you betrayed your husband, how you gambled away our savings on your lover's schemes. I'm certain they'll be very sympathetic. As the fight drained from her, replaced by a bone-deep weariness, I felt a twinge of something. Regret, perhaps pity. I pushed it aside. There was no room for weakness now. You have until the end of the week to move out, I said, turning away. Returning to my desk, I suggested she begin packing. As Lena stumbled from the room, her sobs echoed through the house. I settled back into my chair at the desk. I had work to attend to. After all, a life to rebuild, a daughter to protect. The weeks following Lena's departure from our home were surprisingly quiet. I had anticipated a fight, a messy, drawn-out battle over assets and custody. Instead, Lena seemed to have retreated entirely, licking her wounds in private. I should have known it would not last. It was a crisp autumn morning when I received a call from Reed. His voice was tense, urgent. Felix, we have a problem. Diego is back in town. I felt my stomach drop, even as my mind raced to analyze this new development. What do you mean he is back? I thought he disappeared with the money. Reed's voice crackled over the line. Apparently, things did not go as planned with that art dealer, Vivian. He is broke, desperate, and he has reached out to Lena. I closed my eyes, pinching the bridge of my nose. Of course Diego would come crawling back now, looking for one last score. And Lena, broken and desperate for validation, would welcome him with open arms. What are they planning? I asked, though I already had a sinking feeling I knew the answer. From what we can gather, Diego has pitched her some new scheme. Another art venture, supposedly foolproof this time. He has convinced her to invest what little she has left. I let out a humorless laugh. And let me guess, he needs more. He needs her to get money from me. Got it in one, Reed confirmed. Felix, what do you want to do? I leaned back in my chair, considering my options. I could let this play out, watch as Lena dug herself even deeper. But something in me rebelled at the thought. This had gone on long enough. Get me everything you can on Diego's illegal activities, I said, my voice hard. Every shady deal, every fraudulent transaction. I want it all. You got it, Reed replied. What are you planning? I smiled. I am going to end this once and for all. For the next several days, there was a flurry of activity. Reed worked tirelessly, compiling a damning dossier on Diego's criminal enterprises. I, in turn, carefully arranged for this information to find its way into the hands of the proper authorities. It was almost anticlimactic when it happened. A brief news item tucked away in the local paper. Local artist arrested on fraud charges. Diego's smug face stared out from the grainy photograph, his charm unable to save him now. The persistent ringing of my phone pulled me from a fitful sleep. I glanced at the clock, 3:17 a.m. Only one person would dare call at such an ungodly hour. With a sigh, I reached for the phone, already knowing what I would hear on the other end. Felix. Lena's voice was small and broken, a far cry from the confident, vibrant woman I had once known. Felix, please, I need your help. I sat up in bed. What is it this time, Lena? She broke down then, her sobs echoing through the line. Between gasps, she painted a picture of her dire situation, facing criminal charges, completely isolated, her world crumbling around her. I'll repay you, Felix. I swear I will, she pleaded. I'm still Mila's mother. Please, for her sake. I closed my eyes, letting her words wash over me. Once, not too long ago, those tears would have moved me. I would have rushed to her side, eager to play the hero. But now I felt nothing but a cold, hard resolve. Lena, I interrupted her tearful monologue. Stop. Just stop. She fell silent, likely shocked by the steel in my voice. I'm not going to help you. I continued, each word carefully measured. Not this time. Not ever again. But, Felix, no, Lena. You made your choices. You chose Diego over me, over our family. You chose to gamble with our savings, to lie, to cheat. And now you're facing the consequences of those choices. I could almost see her flinch at my words, harsh but true. What about Mila? She whispered, playing her last card. She needs her mother. For a moment, I felt a flicker of doubt crept in, but then I remembered the pain in Mila's eyes when Lena had walked out, the confusion as she tried to understand why Mommy wasn't coming home. Mila will always know you're her mother, Lena, but right now what she needs is stability and safety, and that's what I'm going to give her. Felix, please. Her voice was barely audible now. I have nothing left. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I had to say next. I know, Lena, and I'm sorry for that. I truly am. But this is where our paths diverge. I can't save you anymore. I won't. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. When Lena spoke again, her voice was hollow, defeated. I understand. Goodbye, Felix. The line went dead, and I sat there in the dark, the phone still pressed to my ear. It was over. Really, truly over. As I set the phone down, I noticed a figure in the doorway. Mila stood there, her stuffed rabbit clutched tightly to her chest. Daddy, she said, her voice small and uncertain. Was that Mommy? I held out my arms, and she rushed into them, burying her face in my chest. Yes, sweetheart, it was. Is she coming home? I stroked her hair, my heart aching for the innocence in her voice. No, honey, Mommy's not coming home. But I want you to remember something, okay? Your mom loves you very much. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, big mistakes, but that doesn't change how much they love their children. Mila nodded against my chest, and I felt her tears soaking through my shirt. I held her tighter, vowing silently to protect her from the storm that was yet to come. As Mila's breathing evened out, signaling she had fallen asleep, I gazed out the window at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Lena was facing the ruins of her life. And Diego, well, his fate was about to be sealed. The trial had been swift, the evidence overwhelming. I sat in the back of the courtroom, watching as Diego's charm and arrogance crumbled in the face of cold, hard facts. The prosecution painted a damning portrait, a picture of fraud and embezzlement, a web of lies that had ensnared not only Lena but countless others as well. I had expected to feel satisfaction as the verdict was read, guilty on all counts. Instead, I felt empty, as if the final piece of a long and complicated puzzle had finally fallen into place. What I did not anticipate was Diego's final act of betrayal. As he was led away in handcuffs, he turned to the judge, his face a mask of desperation. Wait, he called out. I have information about Lena Marlowe. She was involved in all of this. She knew everything. The courtroom erupted into chaos. I sat there, stunned, as Diego spilled every detail of Lena's involvement. By the time he was finished, Lena's fate was sealed. She would face her own trial, her own reckoning. As I left the courthouse, I caught a glimpse of Lena being led away by police officers. Our eyes met for a brief moment. In hers, I saw a mixture of fear, regret, and something else, acceptance. She gave me a small nod, as if to say, "It's over. You win." I did not feel like a winner. But as I walked out into the sunlight, I felt something I had not experienced in a long time. Hope. Hope for a future unburdened by lies and betrayal. Hope for a new beginning. The alarm clock's insistent beeping pulled me from sleep. 5:30 a.m. Once, I would have groaned, hitting the snooze button and burrowing deeper under the covers. But now I welcomed the early hour. I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Mia, who had crawled in sometime during the night. Another nightmare, no doubt. They were becoming less frequent, but still they persisted. The house was quiet as I made my way to the kitchen, the soft padding of my bare feet the only sound. I started the coffee machine and leaned against the counter, watching as the first rays of sunlight began to filter through the windows. So much had changed in the past year. The divorce was finalized, the dust had settled. Lena was gone, serving time for her role in Diego's schemes. I made sure Mia, being able to visit her, kept the lines of communication open. It was not easy, but it was necessary for Mila's sake. The coffee machine beeped, pulling me from my thoughts. As I poured myself a cup, I heard the soft pad of footsteps on the stairs. Daddy. Mila's voice was still thick with sleep. You're up early. I smiled, pulling her into a one-armed hug. Big day today, remember? New project presentation. Her eyes lit up. Oh yeah. Can I come see your building when it's done? Of course, sweetheart. You'll be my VIP guest at the grand opening. As I helped Mila get ready for school, I marveled at her resilience. She had weathered the storm of our family's implosion with a strength that continually amazed me. Sure, there were tough days, moments when the absence of her mother hit her hard, but overall, she was thriving. I dropped Mila off at school and headed to the office, my mind already racing with last-minute details for the presentation. This project was my biggest yet, a sustainable mixed-use development that would revitalize a neglected part of the city. It was ambitious, risky, even, but I was ready for the challenge. As I walked into the conference room, I caught sight of my reflection in the glass. The man staring back at me was a far cry from the broken, betrayed husband of a year ago. My shoulders were straight, my jaw set with determination. I looked confident, strong. The presentation went off without a hitch. As I fielded questions from the investors, I felt a surge of pride. This was what I was meant to do. Create, build, leave my mark on the world. As the room emptied, I felt a hand on my shoulder. I turned to see Amara, a smile playing on her lips. You knocked it out of the park, Felix, she said, her eyes twinkling. I knew you had it in you. I grinned, feeling a warmth spread through my chest. Amara had been my rock through everything, pushing me when I needed it, offering a shoulder when things got tough. Our relationship had deepened over the past year, evolving steadily. It transformed into something I could not quite define. It was not romantic, not exactly, but it was important, vital. I could not have done it without you, I replied. Your tough love got me through some dark days. She punched my arm playfully. Do not go soft on me now, Marlo. We have got a city to rebuild, remember? As we walked out of the office together, discussing plans for celebratory drinks later, I felt a sense of contentment wash over me. This was my life now, full of purpose, of meaningful connections, of hope. Later that evening, as I tucked her into bed, she looked up at me with those big, serious eyes of hers. Daddy, she said, her voice small, do you think Mommy misses us? I sat on the edge of her bed, choosing my words carefully. I am sure she does, sweetheart, very much. Do you miss her? I paused, considering. Did I miss Lena, the woman she used to be? Perhaps the family we once were. But the pain, the betrayal. No, I did not miss that at all. I missed the good times we had, I said finally. But you know what? We are making new good times now, you and me, and that is pretty special, do not you think? She nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. Yeah, it is. As I kissed her goodnight and turned out the light, I thought about Lena. The last I had heard, she was keeping her head down in prison, attending therapy sessions, trying to piece together some semblance of a future. It was a quiet end to a once vibrant life. I made my way to the balcony of our new home, a glass of whiskey in hand. The city sprawled out before me, a twinkling tapestry of lights and shadows. Somewhere out there, my next project was waiting to take shape. Somewhere out there, countless stories like mine were unfolding, lives falling apart, others being rebuilt. I thought about the journey that had brought me here, the betrayal, the pain, the long nights of doubt and anger, but also the growth, the self-discovery, the unexpected friendships. As I stood there, the cool night air on my face, I realized something. The wounds Lena had inflicted. The scars would never fully heal. They would always remain a part of me, a constant reminder of all I had lost and all I had gained. Yet I was no longer defined by those wounds. I had gathered the broken fragments of my life and built something new, something stronger, a career that brought fulfillment, a home filled with love and laughter, and a future radiant with possibility. I raised my glass to the city, to the future, and to the person I had become. Some lives fall apart, I murmured into the night, while others are rebuilt stronger. I chose the latter. And as I turned to step back inside, returning to the warmth of the home I had created, a profound sense of peace washed over me. The story of Felix, Lena, and Marlowe had reached its conclusion, but my story, my own journey, was only just beginning. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for your time. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.